I'm 2018 USA National Finalist Rachel Fatherly. You're watching Garage Strength TV. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell.
Welcome to the podcast. This is the celebration of Martin Luther King Day, and I'm fortunate enough to have Tim Singleton in here. And Tim is a football parent that his son is a beast that trains with me, trains here at Garage Strength. And Tim wears cool shirts, is always talking about either football or politics. So I wanted to bring you on to talk about Martin Luther King a little bit, but mainly what my hope was is that I wanted to hear, for me, you know, growing up as a white kid in, you know, outside Reading,
right?
I can't relate to anything that you really grew up with, for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
And I feel like celebrating Martin Luther King is this conversation, is discussing this and being more open about it and recognizing that you dealt with different things than I did,
right.
and even, you know, vice versa, but more so that I'm recognizing that, you know, things are different than in my little bubble where I grew up. And I think that that's an important part of what Martin Luther King, what he did. But I think ultimately what I think is so special about Martin Luther King, and I think people, I just want to say this quick, is that he completely changed the culture of the United States and completely changed the society, maybe not entirely by himself, but this is before even, you know, social media existed. Right. And that's what I think people, he led all these people, he did this, he did that. But what he did was, one, it was during a time when, you know, the 50s and 60s, when it was unheard of, but you know, civil rights was, it was unheard of. But on top of that, he did it when media, you know, multimedia wouldn't show who he was. Right. And on top of that, he didn't have cell phones to spit stuff out. Yeah. So and I think that people they just see it, you know, they see him in the history books and they forget how much work he probably put into dishing things out and going to protests and all that. And I think that
just tweet something out.
Yeah, exactly. It's so when you start to think about it, I think about what we do at Garage Strength with social media, and how much I'm working, and I'm sitting there going like, dude, this guy impacted the entire country, the entire world, and people will still just brush it off. And I think, you know, I'm excited to do this because I wanted to ask, you know, I wanted to start off with, you know, so you were born in 1968. Martin Luther King was killed April 4th of 1968.
So I wasn't born yet.
Right. Okay.
Same year.
And I want to know, you know, so what was your experience like, or did your parents share any stories of him or anything along those lines?
Let me say, not really. I don't remember my parents really talking politics, or we grew up my neighborhood was multicultural. So I had an Italian family over here, next neighbors are Polish family. So it was really, so I didn't really see race. You know what I mean? My neighbors were really cool. Like, I just grew up where they yelled at me, like, you know, or they corrected me, or they congratulated me, you know. So I didn't really see race. It's really the first time I saw race was probably 10 or 11 or 12, and I was at a bus stop, and the guy was slow, and he said it had to be like 78, 79 Roots that was zoned. I remember that. And the guy made a comment about not moving. We were catching the bus, and he was taking up the whole bus thing, just laying down. Me and my sister were there, and he kind of said, "No, I'm not moving for these niggers." And that was really the first time I dealt with that. But
so what grade would that have been in, like 5th grade?
Yeah, probably like 5th grade, because I was with my sister. Yeah, so probably like a 5th.
So do you think growing up in the city that helped, or would you say?
Yes, I think yes, because I think we talked about this before. Growing up in Reading, we're fortunate being multicultural.
Yeah.
At least at that time in Reading. You know,
Yeah.
it's changed a little bit now. So you saw good white people, bad black people, good black people, bad white. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and you realize that this white kid over here he's on welfare like I might have been on welfare.
Right.
And my mom had a lot of white friends. So I would go to their houses, and one of the families was the Foxes. You used to own the Fox theaters
Right.
around here. So I got to see, they were wealthy families. So I got to play with their son. And even though he had money, I may not have. He played the same way. You know,
Right.
we both enjoyed baseball cards. So but we didn't see money, but we were just kids interacting with each other. So I'm fortunate that I experienced that.
And your neighbors were good people, not pieces of shit.
Yeah, and teachers were, I remember Rick Binder, now this was like 79, coming into my home and helping my brother with his college stuff. You know, so I had really good interactions with white people.
Right, right.
You know, so I didn't see, I had white friends. My best friend is half black, half white.
Yeah.
So his mom's white. So that was, you know, I didn't really have the negative, you know, where somebody coming from maybe, let's say, Brooklyn, where everybody around you is black. And the only white people you see are police officers.
Yeah, yeah. Authoritative.
Yeah. Or doctors, or, you know.
Yeah.
So their experience is going to be way different than mine, you know.
Do you think, did that change at all as you went through like high school? So you didn't get exposed, you didn't feel as though you were...
in high school, I think you had white friends, and a friend, Rick Bean, you know, and it was, we could joke about it. Like, I remember going to his house, and he had some cups with a big B on it. They were family cups with his initials on it. I think he went to grab one. He was like, no, don't touch the cup. But he was joking, but he may not have been joking.
Yeah.
Don't touch the cup. My dad's going to throw it out if you drink out of it. His dad. I mean, but as a kid, you just laughed at it because this was a kid that we played with or hung around with.
All the time.
All the time. So you didn't really feel, I didn't feel offended. I just laughed at it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it was right or wrong, but I don't know if his dad felt that way, but we didn't drink out those cups. We had plastic cups. You know what I mean? So, but as kids, we had white friends. We had white guys on the basketball team, white guys on the football team. So we just, you know, you didn't see color.
Right, right.
You know, I just think where we grew up in Reading at that time, we were fortunate.
I think so. From my perspective, I mean, I grew up just north of the city. I was fortunate where my mom's from Philadelphia.
Yes.
So I never saw color. I never heard the N-word until I was in 4th grade, and I came home and I said this to my mom, like, what does this mean? And the ironic part was it was this kid Dennis saying it to a kid Lewis, who was actually Hispanic.
Right.
And my mom, you know, because we growing up in Schuylkill Valley, I graduated with like 3 black kids.
Right.
You know, so it was weird for me to be exposed to it. Then later, you know, from 4th grade up until high school, where like I would actually start to notice it because I would start to pick up things. Like I remember my mom saying, like, if you ever say that word, you're done.
Right.
And then my friends, then I would hear, you know, 7th, 8th grade just throwing
the word out.
Yeah, and being like, wait, this isn't right. But not really. And I think from on my end, where I always felt almost like a giant bitch, is that I always, you know, looking back, I always feel like I should have done something all the way from day one. And that's one thing, like I, even when I was in college, I remember I heard one dude say it, and I was like, come on, dude. And I even to this day, I wish, like...
No, because I'll tell you, because it goes both ways. I mean, there's black people out here that don't like white people. Or, I shouldn't say don't like, but have you're white, so you must be like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we hear it.
Like a very strict prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and it's both ways, or somebody in your family may not like you because you're dating a white girl, or you're dating a white guy.
Right.
You know, and they see it, you know, and that's how they grew up. Again, if you grew up in if you were old enough to know the 60s and 70s, you may feel a certain type of way about white people, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I don't think things are said around me and you just kind of like, that's just how people talk.
Right.
You know.
So, you know, going into college, because you went to Kutztown.
Yeah.
Did you experience, especially because Kutztown at the time is, you know, it is a state school, right. And it would be attracting. I feel it. Judgmentally, I would feel like it would be attracting more white people.
Yes, you had. I think at Kutztown. What's funny, my wife was just telling me about it. First day up there, you're meeting the parents of your roommate.
Yeah.
So your brothers and his siblings are all there, and she was telling me. The kid said something about, yeah, we're going to go to the park, but you need to wash your hands because your hands are dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
And they were like, shh, you know. But the kid was probably never around anybody black.
Right.
So a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old, they're just going to speak their mind.
Yeah, yeah. They're not going to censor anything.
No, they're just saying what.
And there's probably legitimately no ill will either.
Ill will, right. Yeah. I remember my neighbor, and what did he say to me? My first house I bought, white family, really nice. And the kid asked me, I'm trying to think of how he said it. Almost like, what's wrong with you because you're black?
Yeah, yeah,
Your skin color. And I just looked at the dad, and how do you respond to this? I said, well, fortunately the dad corrected us to do, we're all just different, but we're the same.
Yeah.
We look different, but we're the same.
Right.
You know, but he really had never been around anybody that didn't look like him.
Right.
And the problem, I think, is for that reason. We aren't really around each other.
Yeah.
In church.
Right.
You know.
I mean, church is technically the most segregated time of the week. Is
right.
You know, Sundays, white people go to this church
and
black people go here.
Church,
yeah.
And I said to my wife, we were talking about it, I would bet you very few people have, well, this may be wrong and it may come out wrong. Very few white people have ever had a black person in their home.
Yeah. Oh, I'm certain of that.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Just in your home, not to fix nothing.
Right.
Not to move anything.
Just come over.
Yeah. And I bet you a lot of black people. Well, and the difference, there probably have been a lot of black people who haven't done it either.
Right.
But the difference is I probably have had a white person in my house fix the dryer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Whereas, dude, I know people that'll be like, you know, a white or a black dude shows up to fix their dryer, and they're like, oh shit, like there's a black dude here.
Yeah. You know,
and they're like point it out.
Yeah.
And that's where it's weird. Like that's where it's like, what the fuck? How do you get that to stop?
Well, because I don't know if it will ever, because we're all tribal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And like I was telling,
this goes along. I think I've said this to you, where I've always been jealous that even when I was in college,
right?
Like I told you, my brother's best friend growing up was a black kid, Kurt Hines, and Kurt would always say this too, is that walking through state college, because he went to Penn State as well. Black dudes will see each other on the street and they just give a little nod.
Yep.
And whereas white guys, I could be walking down the street and I'll see a white guy like trying to give him the nod, and he's just walking like this. It's like. Yeah. It is.
Well, because there's so few of us,
but
so we want to acknowledge.
And that's the thing. It almost is like with black dudes. I don't know. You use the word tribal. I don't know if I'd use tribal, but it's just more like a strict brotherhood where you're like.
No, I mean society. We are tribal. I mean, if you're from, I think, like I was telling somebody, I don't think Trump is a racist. Let me say this. Let me explain this. No. Let me explain this. I actually don't think he's a straight racist, like a skinhead racist. I think he's actually worse. I think he's playing on people's racism and fears.
Oh, shit.
Which is actually worse.
Just so that he can manipulate people.
For power and money.
Yeah. You know
what I mean? Because he doesn't, a guy that wealthy, he doesn't care if you're black, white, or whatever. If you
can make him money, he's going to
use you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think he just plays on our fears, on some people's fears.
Right.
You know, and that's, to me, is worse.
Yeah.
Than actually, I'd rather for you to say, I don't like you because you're black.
Right.
Or I don't like you because you're white. I'd rather for you to say that than play on that, you know, and use people. Because common sense would tell you every Mexican or every Hispanic or every white person isn't bad.
Right.
you know, but he plays on that fear. And again, you're fortunate because you have a mom like that taught you that. But let's say you didn't have a mom who, you know, you've heard of people scared to go into ready.
Well, no, that's the whole thing. Is it always comes back to, like, exactly that. Your parents.
Yes.
What your parents were exposed to.
Yes.
And then what they were exposed to, they're going to educate you on
it. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas with
yeah.
And I was fortunate. You know, my dad was in the military, so he went all over the world.
Right.
And it was always one of those things where it was like, I never thought about it until that time, 4th grade, and Dennis said this to Luis Ortiz, and I remember sitting like, what is going on? And then even to this day, like when we'll travel for weightlifting competitions or for track, it's so educational just to be around other people. Exactly. We're going to Malaysia. You're around Muslims and Buddhists, and you're like,
see that they're trying to do the same thing you're doing, which is powerlift.
Yeah.
They don't care nothing about.
Right.
You know,
they're trying to eat, live, and lift weights.
Yeah.
They're the same as us.
It's the same.
Yeah.
And the sad part is if you grew up, look at it this way: if you grew up in, I'll just use any town, and it's all white people. And now you get Philadelphia news. Turn on the news. What's the first 10 minutes?
Some stupid
drugs, death, whatever. And because it's a big city, it may just be a lot of black people. You know, that's another reason why we're crying and all that. But that gets another topic. So all you see for the first 10 minutes of your local news is, man, this black guy just selling drugs. This black guy murdered this guy. This black guy. Yeah. So you know no other black people. Mm-hmm. So your mind is going to shift towards, like, black people commit crime, black people are thieves,
you're indoctrinated.
Yeah, right. And then you turn on the 7 o'clock, turn on the Sixers game.
Yeah.
All black people play basketball. Right? You know what I mean? Or watching football or you know what I mean? So television does a lot, has a lot to do with how we think about each other. I think I told you before about growing up, we had the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Well, the Brady Bunch in good times. You had a white family making money. You had black people struggling, and you know, and that shapes your perception.
Yeah.
And unless you get out, why college is so important.
Yeah. Unless
you go to, hopefully you go to college and you interact with people that are different from you, it won't change.
That's why sports. That's why I think sports are so good. Because but think about me going from let's say I'm never exposed to going to Philadelphia with my mom to Roxborough, and I grow up in Leesport, and I go to Penn State, and I go on the track team,
right. So
and
now you're meeting
45 of the 52 guys are black,
right.
And I'm sitting there like, holy shit, this is a whole nother world,
right.
But
the music, everything,
and that's
the what you laugh at, everything's, you know, who I think is funny, what you think is funny. That's important.
Right.
But I think so many people don't go when they go to college. You go find your tribe.
Yeah. And
you kind of stick with
your comfort zone.
With your comfort zone. And the other things, there was a teacher at my son's school, who was the principal or vice principal, and he had made a comment about your first perception, the first perception you have of somebody will stick with you.
Yeah.
So he said, dude, imagine you're a white girl coming from Leesport. Never really been around, I'm not using Leesport, but never really been around black people. You go to your first college party. 5 black dudes walk in a party like, oh, I'm not paying, and bogart their way in. What's that girl's perception?
That's the rest of her life, Judgmental. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not wrong. You know what I mean? And that's why he was saying why social media and all this stuff, people have to be careful with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have just given somebody the first perception of you, and people like you.
Yeah.
So if you're...
So it can be a powerful tool, positivity.
But it also could be negative.
Right.
And I think it happens where people, we want to see the negative.
Right.
You know, the Myers story, which is a great story.
Right.
But after a while, people kind of...
They brush that aside. They want
to see
everybody. They want to see that someone else is struggling worse than them. They want to see that someone else is getting screwed over, and they're better than them, and they one up them.
Dane, that's why, in my belief, why Trump won, because ultimately, people don't want somebody to have something.
You mean he didn't win because he's a good politician?
Yeah. But I think people are scared that other people will have something that they think they deserve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
So, you know what I mean? So it's funny. I love Judge Judy. And she'll talk about somebody somebody has disability. It is what it is. But that is welfare.
Yeah.
I mean, disability is coming out of... but because this guy's getting disability and this guy's getting welfare, they're both getting money from the government.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? But this person who's faking like his back's hurting,
right.
you're getting welfare.
Yeah.
You know, it's all money coming, but the perception is different. But I just think that people have to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And really meet other people and try and understand other people.
Right.
Because it can be hard. Let me say this real quick. Someone was telling me, you ever notice when you went to college, there could be in the cafeteria one table full of black guys. That's probably the loudest table. You ever see that?
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
And the guy was saying, you know why that is? Because they subconsciously, now I don't know if I believe this or not, but it kind of makes me think about it. Subconsciously know the numbers. So if I'm louder, you'll think there's more of us.
Yeah, you almost get intimidated.
Right.
Like
so
somebody from the outside.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I believe it or not. I got to think about that more. But that just popped into my head when somebody was telling me that. He said, dude, that's why sometimes they're louder, or we can be louder, because there's only 5 of us here and there's 100 here.
Yeah.
So maybe if we're louder, we'll make it seem like there's more of us here, and you'll be less likely to,
to screw with them or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it does come back to the comfort zone, and I'll share a quick story where for me, the most uncomfortable I've ever been is this past summer when I went to Uzbekistan, and the whole country is Islamic.
Right.
And they're not Arab. They're like white Asian and
right.
steppe type people. But everybody's Islamic,
right.
and the call to prayer is 5 times a day.
Right.
And we went to this huge mosque, and I was like the first time in my life where I was like uneasy, where I was like, this is
why.
I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what.
You were scared of your life? For your life?
No.
Okay.
I was
uneasy.
just uneasy because I don't know. It was, I would say most likely because I'm prejudiced about it.
Prejudiced about what?
Is Muslims.
Really?
That to an extent, but I think that this trip got me to sit there and be like, dude, these guys. The only difference between someone who's the only difference from someone who's like born in Uzbekistan and someone who's American is that when you're born in Uzbekistan, you're raised Islamic because of the way political or religious conquests occurred, and the reason why we're Christian is because of the way religious conquests occurred in Europe, and that's the only difference.
Right.
But because I'm a dope, I'm sitting
because
there,
of 9/11 and
maybe something like that.
Well, because you don't think all Muslims are
no.
Because I had a customer, I'll never forget this, say to me, I don't like Muslims. And I'm like, okay, but you go down to this diner.
And it's owned by an Egyptian guy.
Yeah. And he's like, well, he's different. I'm like, he said, they're taught to hate us. I'm like, dude, that's not every Muslim. That's a small little piece of the Muslims that really feed into hating the infidels or whatever they are.
Right.
Where we are. But again, to me, it's common sense. Like, I can't think every Spanish person is this, or every white person is like that, but I think that comes from meeting people and understanding that we're really the same. We have the same problems.
Right.
You know what I mean? The same.
I think that's what's unique, and I pointed this out with my own son with Lincoln, is that with adults, if everybody's meeting and intermingling and associating with everyone, and that's one positive part about social media is that I can be friends or follow this person who's an Arab guy, and this guy's Vietnamese, and that dude's a black guy, and this chick's from, you know, Ecuador or whatever, right, and feel connected to them in all some way.
Right.
But one thing I wanted to point out is
you have to be open to that.
Yeah, you have to be open
to it.
And that's 100% accurate, obviously. But one thing I want to point out is, like, my son with Lincoln.
Right.
If he would say, "Oh, Nicholas is over there," and somebody said, like, "Well, who's Nicholas?" He would say, you know, it's the kid with the Nike shirt on.
Right.
If you're an adult, and I think this is where I'm hoping that this could be something that is a positive change, is that Lincoln would describe Nicholas as the tall kid, long legs, he's got a shirt on.
Right.
Whereas we might be like, "Oh, he's a black dude."
Black kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, your son's going to grow.
Hopefully.
Well, no, he will, because he sees black people in it, you know, people from different races and genders,
right,
all in here working. So his perception is going to be different. It has to be.
I hope so.
No, I will, because it's almost impossible that he sees good and bad in everybody. So he doesn't see, you know, and no, it's almost impossible. I'd be shocked, because
I would suck as a parent if it would be that way.
No, because you don't know what's going to happen when he gets to high school, and what's going to be you can't.
Yeah, what's going to be, but still, I mean, as a
you
parent,
would think what you taught him would be strong enough to come back and say.
So this is where I want to ask you some more pointed questions. Is that, you know, so you grow up going through the 80s,
right?
Ronald Reagan's the president, George H.W. Bush. You know, 90s, pretty similar time frame, but I feel like the 90s, the 80s was like this transition. The 90s started to become very progressive, and it was like the 80s were like the bridge between Martin Luther King,
from the 70s to the
and until where we're going into like the mid 2000s or early 2000s, and then you have Clinton and Bush, and it's like, what was it like, you know, going through the 80s and 90s, and then even into, you know, the early 2000s, and then you know, Barack Obama's elected president? And that's what I want to know, is that, like, is that for a black dude?
Yeah.
Is that like you're sitting there like that's a victory, or is it just like, no, he's just another politician?
No, you think he thought it was something special because it was. I mean, dude, there's rap songs from the 80s or that there will never. I mean, Richard Pryor did a skit about there's never going to be a black president.
Right.
You know, Jesse Jackson ran.
Right.
So when it happened, you were thinking. Again, I wasn't one of those like the sky's gonna open up and everything's gonna. I knew that wasn't gonna be, but I thought it was a really good step that they hopefully were seeing somebody just for who he was. Not. I thought that was a good step because they were just looking at him as a man who they believed in what he was saying, and you know, he empowered some people and inspired some people, you know. So I didn't think the world was going to be totally different. I didn't, you know. But
still, from a race perspective, it was a progressive change.
Yeah, and I think that, yes, I do. I do believe. I don't think most people are racist. I don't. I don't think.
I mean, if you ask me, from the day you're born, I don't think most people are bad people. I think everybody's born. Yeah. Everything is taught to them.
They're taught to them.
And that's what, even when I'm dealing with a bigot, I'm sitting there and, like, part of me wants to hurt the dude. Like, part of me wants to be like, how are you that dumb?
I think.
But then you got to sit there and, you've got to be like, what's the logic behind it? They don't have logic. It's all fear.
It's all fear. It's all, and that's what politics are.
It's all fear and hate.
Politics are fear, and that's stronger than
logic and love. And,
yeah, because if you're scared that Mexicans are taking your jobs, which most jobs are doing, we wouldn't.
One, either you're lazy, or two, you suck at your job, and that's why you're losing it. Well,
dude, most jobs that Mexicans, we don't
even do.
We're not going to do them jobs.
Yeah.
And most jobs that have been lost are through machinery.
Right.
A machine can do a job, you know.
Yeah.
Being at the post office, people just sort mail by hand. Now there's a machine that can fly through the letters. So many jobs are lost there.
Right.
But if you're not thinking, you're thinking, well, these Mexicans are taking all our jobs. Dude, they're not taking all our jobs.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they are. But fear, you know, like the border thing that's going on. Really, what would somebody in Nebraska, nowhere near the border, how could you ask? I mean, you don't actually know. You have not been even here in Reading.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I work in Douglasville. Like, that's bothering you. You have not even.
Dude, my brother has actually walked through the wall when he hitchhiked down to Mexico. He's like, dude, there's doors there. You can walk. He's like, here's another idea. There's something called a tunnel.
Right.
You can go under. Yeah.
And so you're sitting here like, you guys are so upset about, you know, Mexicans coming over and but you really personally have not dealt with any Mexicans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not losing your job to any Mexicans.
I mean, if I've dealt with them, I've worked with them.
Right.
And it's like, dude, what's your problem?
Right.
Have you not worked with these guys?
I don't, you know, but it's fear. And I think people, they succumb to fear. They just, fear is a strong motivation.
Well,
fear is it. And that's all this is.
Yeah.
I'm going to, you know, and then I'll tell you, I don't know if you have cable or not, but Netflix.
No, I don't have.
Right,
I don't even have TV.
But if you ever get there's a show, documentary, 13th Amendment,
okay,
slavery,
yeah,
and it showed how fear was used for black people. So if anybody watch that documentary, it's really good. It showed the television, how through politics, you know, the black guy's gonna steal your. I'm hard on crime. The black guy is gonna rape your daughter and got votes because they're scared that this was going to happen to their community, you know. And one other thing,
it's eerily similar to. I mean,
I want you to think about this.
The thing that I struggle with is people. So we study history and we see this.
Yeah, but people don't.
And it's like it's fear mongering bullshit.
It's all fear mongering. And unless
it's just like back in the 50s, if you listen to jazz music, you'd end up, you know, you'd get a girl pregnant. Yeah. And then it was like that with rap music.
Yeah. And you're also, until it hits you, it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
So when crack hit in the 80s, and, you know, I remember that. I mean, that was crazy. Crack was crazy. Now heroin has hit
white people.
Yeah. So now it's a totally different, it's epidemic. Now we got to fix this. But when crack was going on, we're locking all these people up.
Right.
With heroin, we're treating it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in my opinion, it's because it hasn't hit. Crack was their problem.
Yeah.
So once heroin hit, it became my problem.
Right.
So now we have to fix it. And I think we see people who don't look like us as it's them. And that's their issue.
And what's sad with that is that we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about a fucking wall when all we have to do is sit there and go, we have crack, we have heroin. You want to talk about a national security problem or a problem that's directly impacting everybody. The border is not directly impacting someone. And I have 4 people in my life directly impacted by crack or heroin.
Yeah, I have
so you want to talk about like a problem in the United States?
It's not being walked.
That's
it's
where
not
the money
being walked across.
Right, exactly. That's where the money needs to be focused upon. Is like, how can we rehabilitate these people and handle it so it doesn't happen?
Look what was happening in Flint, Michigan with the water.
Right. Yep. Nobody gave a shit.
No.
I
mean, and because it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
And I just think we are, as a society, that's everybody. It's black, white, unless it affects us, or it's not shown that it will affect us. We're scared into thinking it's going to affect us.
You just brush it away.
Yeah. You know, because, like I said, crack and heroin, they're both epidemics for their time, and one was handled a lot differently than the other. And if you think about crack and the sentences that went down, and now we're going somewhere else with it, but the black males that were locked up, and now you have children without black males in their life as fathers. You just repeat a cycle of kids growing up without a father and being taught how to be a man. You know, if you watch this, I'm telling you, 13th Amendment, Netflix.
Okay,
it's a really good.
This is like a free plug? For...
Yes, I'm telling you, it's a really good, you know. But hopefully, it's getting better.
Yeah,
and I don't know if it, you know, like honestly, I think Hillary would have won if people just didn't. They just were tired of the Clintons.
Yeah.
You know, I think people just didn't vote, and kind of why Trump, in my opinion, won. Now the black number was down.
Right. I think one thing I did want to point out, and we touched on it just a little bit, is that I find it, you know, I mentioned this to you before, where growing up, you know, when you grew up, hip hop was just really starting.
Yes.
You know, like.
Yeah, really kind of.
Just really, like Grandmaster Flash was like the first one on the scene. Really, I mean, some other guys, but he was like the first big time guy. Yeah. And then, you know, when I grew up, it was like 1992. I would have been in 2nd or 3rd grade. My brother would have been in like 5th or 6th. I think my sister had.
92.
Yeah.
My daughters were 94.
So it might have been a little bit later, but I remember going to it was in the Fairground Square Mall. It was the Wall, and you would go in and buy CDs, and you could listen to CDs.
I remember that.
And my sister bought, or my sister somehow got like the Chronic from my brother from Dr. Dre, and I remember my dad being pissed because I had a pot leaf on the label and stuff. But what was cool, you know, so. We were basically, that was like my first exposure to hip hop was the Chronic. And then I started to, you know, as I got into high school, listen to other stuff. But I remember my dad being like, "What are you listening to that for? Like you can't listen to hip hop music." Yeah. And it was almost like, no, I can. But for him, it was more like, you can't listen to hip hop music because that's not black. Yeah, that's not you.
Yeah.
But then I would sit there and think, like, you know, he would listen to like jazz music. So what's the difference, right? Well, that's what's weird.
No, it was weird, but I think.
But it's just a relatable thing.
If I had a roommate and he was listening to Johnny Cash, or he was listening to Ozzy Osbourne, I'd be like, dude,
you're a weirdo.
What are you listening to? Because I didn't grow up. Like, it's funny. Like, I see on television how big the Beatles were.
Yeah.
My parents didn't listen to the Beatles.
Right.
You know, they listened to probably James Brown or Aretha Franklin. So it was just different, you know.
Completely different music.
Completely different. You know?
So I think where I was going with that is that as I went through, you know, high school and college, we got to the point where, you know, by the time I was in college, Fitty was big time, and it was so normal. It was so normal to listen to hip hop. Yeah. And now what's cool is I might have shared this. I told Rachel this story, and I'm like, dude, we had these 2 kids from Central PA that they were, in one sentence, they were talking about killing coyotes. Literally, this is a story. And then the next thing they are doing is like the new Meek Mill album just came out like a month ago. Right. And I see them both like singing the songs.
Music has done,
and that's the thing is that
music has.
You listen to music, and so when I was in college, I got big into KRS-One, and I listened to everything that he put out, and Boogie Down Productions put out,
Tupac,
and I would listen to all that stuff all the time, and that's stuff that people, you know, who may never have been exposed to, or maybe they're growing up in Northern Canada, but they could relate to somebody just by hearing what they're saying and be like, oh shit, he's dealing with some shitty situations.
Or let me say this, and again, good and bad. If you sit there and you don't know, every black person's life isn't like Tupac's.
Right. True.
Yeah. You start thinking, oh, you're like, you know, Tupac, and you deal drugs. And,
yeah, that's true.
That's true. So there's good. So that's why, again, being exposed to different people.
Yeah.
Different, you know, areas and social economic, you know, just different.
Yeah.
That's what you need. That's why college.
Right.
Hopefully go to college.
Yep.
And meet other people and realize usually your first roommate you don't know.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, if you may have somebody that either richer than you, poorer than you, different color, and you know, and in your dorm, so you get to meet different people. That's what I think is really important. Can I ask you a question though?
Yeah.
How?
No, you can't actually.
Okay. No. I've always been curious how kids today, there's a kid that comes here, and I know when Trump was going on, he went to a
Yeah.
and he was yelling, "Build a wall, build a wall, build a wall." Okay.
Yeah, how do you know he was actually yelling that?
He told me.
Okay.
He
You
told-
gotta realize though,
No.
before you ask, when I talk to anybody who's like 22 or younger about politics, I don't even factor in any. I don't judge
No,
them
he
at all.
wasn't 20. He was a teenager, so he was in school.
There's
I know, but I just want to know how he could that night go yell that and then go back the next day and sit next to probably someone Hispanic. Like, where's their thinking?
There's a serious disconnect there. I think that that's often the case with everybody. Is that you can't sit. People struggle to take a step back and analyze things. We got to remember that, so my neighbor, okay, he goes to the township. He wants to complain to the township because I hit his shed with a discus.
Right.
He pulls up and he's got Trump bumper stickers. And I said, dude, why are you going to the township? Just come talk to me, man to man.
Right.
But here's the thing. He'll spew all this stuff about not getting the government involved, which is perfectly fine.
Huh.
But then why are you going to the township to get them involved about me hitting your shed with a discus? You could have just come to talk to me like a man.
He was saying he doesn't like the government.
He says he doesn't like it, but then he goes and cries
right.
it. And at the same time, I find out from another farmer that he's getting more government subsidies to keep his soy and corn prices lower.
Dude, what was I just saying?
And it's like how do you not take a step back and
say,
go, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm voting for this guy, but this is my actions. And that's where you always have to sit there and say, actions always speak louder than words. And you tell me this all the stuff, all the time.
Yeah.
It's always the case, is that actions will always speak louder than words.
You can say whatever you want. Show me.
Yeah, it's all, and that's the thing, is that it always comes back to show me who you are. Because I could be a Republican.
Right.
And
there's many reasons for being a Republican.
Yeah, and still have the like actually be a loving, caring individual.
Yes, you can.
But the problem becomes is like, how do you not take a step back and be like, well, this dude's, Jose, he's a good dude.
Right.
You know what?
Right.
Jamal, he's a good guy.
Right.
You know what? Jason, he's a good dude.
Right.
Because we're all human beings just trying to exist and just trying to be healthy and just trying to be happy.
You didn't explain to me why that kid...
I can't explain it because I don't understand it. It's a disconnect. There's a lost pathway where they struggle. People struggle to really question who they are, and I think that's one thing. When I had,
and it's also easy to follow.
It's very
easy to become a follower.
It's all hoorah bullshit.
Yes. So if you're in a room and everybody's yelling,
you get. I always say this. I hated Penn State football when I was there.
Right.
I went to Larry Johnson's game when he broke 2,000 yards rushing against Michigan State my freshman year, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. I became a Penn State fan immediately.
Right.
But it's like it's so easy to get caught up in that. But I also just think it's a huge disconnect between I
agree with that. Yes.
People can't question themselves, and I always one thing my dad did teach me is that you need to always think for yourself, and you need to question authority, and it comes back to who are you question yourself on a regular basis, because that's the only way we're going to get better.
It's the same thing, like you said, the guy's getting or somebody's getting a supplemental check from the government for what they're not doing,
right?
Yep. Or for disability.
Yeah.
So you're getting money from the government for not farming,
right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And this person's getting a check from the government for not working,
right? And you'll say they're bad, but you're not,
right?
But where is that?
Or you don't want government involved in any part of my life.
I think a lot of
paves our roads.
I think I think a lot of that comes back to is that it's you're not fully exposed to people who might be different from you. Right. You might intermingle with them. You might you might train with them at the gym, but you're never deep in their life.
Right.
And that's
and realize we're all the same.
Yeah. And
we
realize
the same problems.
Dude, they're dealing with bullshit just like I am. And they're dealing with bullshit just like I am. And that's when you realize that everybody's relatable.
We have more in common. I tell people I truly believe that. There's more in common, especially like you said with sports.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. We all love sports.
Dude, that's the thing. You have emotional connections. I've had emotional connections with a Vietnamese guy.
if you are both Penn State fans, you are next to each other, you give each other
yeah,
high fives,
something like that.
Yeah, you know,
But
we have more in common than we know.
Even and that's the cool part about even with weightlifting is that we go places and it's like, wow, like these people they're all from different walks of life. They're all from completely foreign countries that I've never even seen someone from Uzbekistan before. Right. I'm like, well, he's just like me, man. He's trying to pay his bills.
Do you get a chance to talk to them?
Yeah, the one guy was with us all the time, and that's where what I love with these trips is that I want to hear their life story. I want to hear their story, who they are, and what they're about, because I want to try and make myself better. Right. I want to come back home and I want to tell stories to my wife and my kids and be like, yo, this is, and I give Lincoln money from where I go, and I tell him a story about this kid Asladin, and I said, or Asladin, and how he kept wearing a British flag T-shirt, and every day I'd be like, why are you wearing that bitch ass British flag T-shirt? Yeah. But they think it's funny because it's like, yeah, somebody cares, and that's the whole thing is that if we all just sat here and recognized that we're all the same, we're all just trying to survive.
Take a step back.
Yeah. And we should all just fucking, and as hokey as it sounds, just love each other. Just deal with it.
No, you're 100% right.
That's it.
And it's funny, I was thinking when you said about going to another country, dude, something as simple as taking a kid from Brooklyn and taking him to Lancaster.
Yeah.
And seeing something different. Or taking him to Reading and seeing something
different. Going from Leesport, going to Reading. That's what's so cool.
It's just like, expose yourself to different people and think for yourself. You know, and not pretty much common sense. You know, every white person isn't bad. Every black person isn't bad. It's funny. I used to think, man, what if how sometimes black people are labeled one way?
Yeah. What if it was?
What if we labeled what if my dad never? My dad, he passed away now, but he grew up in the 30s.
Yeah.
What if he held that feeling that every white person
was evil? Right.
Which he probably could have. You know what I mean?
But I think here's the thing is that I wanted to use this as an example. My wife used to play field hockey all the time, so she would play in these clubs, and we would go to the Bronx.
Right.
And so, again, I love KRS-One. Yeah. He's from South Bronx. Okay, so that's where she would have these hockey tournaments. It was in South Bronx. So I would walk around. I would go all over walking around because it was a full-day tournament.
Nobody bothered you, would they?
Nobody would bother me, but what was cool is that I would walk down the street and there'd be people looking at me like, what the fuck? What's this white guy here for?
They wouldn't bother you.
But what was neat was like, I sat there and I'm like, this is how a black dude feels every fucking day. And if you put that kid who was at the Trump rally, and you take him to South Bronx, you take him to Brooklyn,
he
may feel that, and he may sit there and be like, you know what, like this is how that person's feeling when they're in school and they hear somebody drop the N-bomb.
Right.
And next time I hear that, I'm gonna fuck somebody up. You know, I love everybody. That's what my thing is. Like, I think everybody should. I love every person that walks into the gym.
Yep.
I love every person that I see, but as soon as you are a bigot or you wrong somebody, then it changes because you're showing your actions, and that's where it's like, I think that's what it is. Is like it's people struggle to relate because they never put themselves in
their position, in another person's shoes,
and it's all about being put into a position of vulnerability. Yes. If you're vulnerable, you learn. You learn who you are. You learn who the people around you are. You know, think about your like. This is a weird situation, but let's say you're in a house and you're getting robbed.
Right.
And your best friend just runs away and leaves you there. You're gonna learn real fast.
You're gonna learn real quick.
He's a bitch.
Right.
And you don't want him around in a hairy situation.
Right.
So you get put into that vulnerable position where you're walking around South Bronx and you're a white guy. You're like, fuck, this is how black dudes feel all the time.
Right.
Maybe I should stop being a racist piece of shit. You know.
Right. And understand that everybody. Well, the other thing we're talking race. I don't think white guys can understand what minorities may be going through.
No, yeah.
I think it's very hard for them to, because they think, okay, Obama got elected, so
it's we're perfect now.
Yeah, and it's not, or well, we're not back in the 50s anymore. You can go do, but there's little things that
there's little things like if I get caught with a bag of weed and you get caught with a bag of weed, it is very, very, very likely science will show that you will get a harder sentence than me.
I was talking to my wife about,
and that's only because of race.
There was a study. Now I don't know when this study was done, but there was a study that doctors were actually treating black kids and white kids for appendicitis.
Yeah.
The white kids were getting more medicine than the black kids because I think they thought the black kids could handle the pain more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but see, here's my issue with that. Here's my struggle. I could tell you right now, I think black dudes are tougher than white guys. Is that bad? I think it is bad.
But I can sit there because every black person can't dance. Every black person.
Yeah, but I know, but I can sit there. People say my throwers, like Rachel actually, Jason said this to Rachel, like, I just love that we have a diverse throws group. And Rachel's like, we don't have a diverse throws group. We got like 7 black people and one white guy. But my thing is like, the 7 black people, the 1 white guy, they're the ones who want to work their asses off. So that's why they come train with me. The white dudes are lazy. And I know that sounds I don't think they're bigoted.
Lazy. I think what happens is the situation you're in. If it's easier if I know this is talk about boxing.
Yeah.
Back in the, boxing came out where it was like a immigrant sport. The Irish, the poor Irish.
Yeah.
They fought to get out of poverty.
Yeah.
So they went to blacks and then, so if you kind of know I need to do this to go to school, I'm probably going to work a little harder. Where if a kid knows,
well, my dad's got money, he'll back me up.
That's why, again, I talked to you about Cooper Lutz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I'm not saying his parents are, I don't know if anybody see this, that they're millionaires or I don't know how much money they have, but they're
well off.
Yeah. If I see that kid work, most kids won't do that.
No, that's true.
I mean, if I gave you...
And he's the hardest working kid.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's human nature.
Yeah.
If I gave you $10 million...
And you've said that before. What is it that his dad taught him?
I mean, that isn't, to me...
Because that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I want to know what his dad taught him.
Right.
Because
if I gave most people $10 million, most people aren't going to work the next day.
I think I want to call you out on one thing with Cooper, though. I remember.
I know, but I never saw him play.
You saw him
until
play.
I saw him play.
You saw him play, and you go, he runs like a black dude.
Yeah. I mean, so I saw the kid play, and I'm like, you're like.
So that's my thing, though. Is like that. There's like always this fine line between those types of comments. That's like,
I think, I think there's you probably. Racism.
That's a prejudice. That's the prejudice there is
because everybody has prejudice in them.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
You go to Giant and you see a fat person in the candy aisle, you're gonna have a prejudice.
Right. Or I see 5 bald guys in a bar with tattooed up. I'm gonna think a certain thing about them. You see 5 black kids with their pants sagging walking down the street. You're gonna feel, it's but it's how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And realize that,
it's that initial reaction. It's like, oh, and then you have to be like, you know what, dude?
Yes.
Fuck it.
I'll tell you, the perfect example was, I don't know, Shane Ott.
Yeah. I know who he is. Yeah.
No perfect. Hair. Hopefully I'm not putting him out there like that. But if you saw him, you would think a certain thing. But Shane's one of the nicest dudes.
Yeah.
And I remember my friends used to get on me about, you're like, how you doing guy. Because I would talk to anybody.
Yeah.
If I knew you're a racist, I might ask you, well, why are you like?
Why you want to know?
Yeah, I want to know. Or if you're gay, hey, why are you?
Yeah.
Just so I know.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be mean or anything.
Because you want to learn.
I want to learn, and not that I want to be, but
right.
You're right. But you just want to learn
what makes people tick.
Yes. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the problem is when you don't want to learn, like you said a million times.
Then you put up the wall.
And just say, okay, he's black, he's gay, he's white.
Yep.
I know who they are.
Yep.
And unless you're willing to step out and say, hey, I want to learn who you really are.
Yeah, you got to get out of your comfort zone.
Get out of your comfort zone and not assume everybody is because of the way they look. They have a long beard and on a bike or whatever. They could be a billionaires.com guy.
Right.
That's on a bike.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right, you know what I mean?
Right.
And during the week and on the weekend they're with the Harley and so You just have, like you said, have to get out of your comfort zone and really talk to people.
Yeah, and figure out who
they are, and you know. Now, one thing I will say, I do try to talk to people, but if you say something too stupid,
you just move on.
I just move on. If you're gonna, you know, if you want to have a real conversation, and because I'll be the first one to say, dude, everything Obama did wasn't perfect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna sit here and say everything he did was, you know, I understand why he could not do some things, but if you want to have a real conversation about Trump or whatever, yeah, we can have it. But if you're not gonna, I have to admit my flaws.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to admit your flaws. If we're really having a conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think people feel as though, in order for me to win an argument, I can't admit my flaws, so I'm gonna come up with some crazy excuses why.
And that's most of the time what ends up happening.
Whatever. Yeah. But instead of just saying, you know what, I'm gonna listen to this guy and I'm gonna take what he has to say, and if it makes sense, because it should make sense.
Yeah.
You know, you should be fine. But if you're gonna sit there and everything you say, Dane, is, well, I'm not gonna believe what he says, or I'm gonna try to win an argument by coming up with some crazy explanation, then we're not really.
You're not accomplishing anything.
No.
Yeah.
No. So you have to, again, put your walls down. Say I'm wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
You're wrong sometimes, and we can kind of meet in the middle.
Absolutely.
But too many people don't want to do that.
And I think that goes back to I think that actually goes back to too how they're raised. If you're raised to just be bullheaded and put your head against the wall and ignore people, that's where the term ignorant comes from. Yes. You're ignoring everybody, and you refuse to recognize that something could be different.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with us being different.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it'd be kind of boring if we all looked the same, acted the same, and thought the same. That would never happen, because even if we were Republicans, we would find, or Democrats, we would find some reason
to be different.
To be different.
Yeah.
You know, so accept the difference and embrace it.
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely.
There's nothing, but too many people, too much money involved.
Yeah, no shit.
Right?
Yep.
Money and power.
All right, I want to do this. We call it the Red Hot Minute. So I wrote some questions, and so it's like real short answers. So you can't give me a Tim Singleton answer.
Oh, okay. Or Neil George answer. Sorry, Neil.
So I got 5 questions. Sean, do you got any questions for your dad? USPS or UPS?
USPS.
For those that don't know, Tim works for USPS. I just had to ask that question for fun. Okay. Saban or Belichick?
Saban.
Oh, come on.
Dude,
you're ridiculous.
Nah, I think Saban. Belichick, that division has been one of the weakest, probably the weakest division.
I don't care. He's in the NFL.
The weakest division.
You're crazy.
Ever. Ever. I've never seen the Jets, the Dolphins. Them dudes have been bad or mediocre.
The Bills are terrible.
Yeah, dude. And I think they talked about their record at home in the playoffs. It's like some phenomenal record. But on the road, it's kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're probably going to lose this week.
Okay.
On the road.
Yeah, they're playing. They got the Chiefs. Yeah, that's going to be tough. Actually, Mahomes, dude, I think what's scary to me is I think this could legitimately be like the passing of the guard where I think the Chiefs are going to go on a tear, dude, for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah. He's a savage QB.
Yeah.
All right, divisional losers, Dallas Cowboys or the Eagles?
Who was the loser?
Who are you picking? It's more like you just pick one team, and I know who you're going to pick. I just had to point out that they lost.
I mean, look, I
when are they gonna fire Jason Garrett?
I don't know, but I wish I'm not a big Prescott fan.
Yeah.
Just let me say this: I grew up a Cowboy fan from my son's age at 10, but I was happy for Eagle fans when they won.
Oh, get the hell out.
I was happy for my brother. I was happy for him. But I don't want them to win anymore. But I was happy that they could feel what it was like to win a championship.
All right, Biggie or Tupac?
Oh, man.
Yo, that's a good one.
I think that if I wanted to, wow.
Come on, you gotta pick one. I know who I'm going with.
Tupac spit more knowledge.
Oh, okay.
Biggie told better stories.
Yeah,
His
there you go.
stories were. I mean, if you listen to,
I think Biggie did have, in general, also had better beats.
yes, but Biggie's story. If you listen to Biggie and listen to what he's saying, he can really tell a story.
Yeah.
And you're like living his story. Tupac was about you thinking about what he's saying and about life and race and kind of
absolutely.
So just different. Biggie wasn't on that political level that Tupac was on. But if I just for a storyteller, Biggie was
a man.
Yeah, I like Biggie.
Okay, last one. This is gonna be a tough one for you. Okay. Obama or Trump?
Yo, man. Let me tell you, Obama.
Yo, Sean, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one. Dude, for a man that he carried himself.
I still think they should have let Bernie Sanders come through on with the DNC. He could have beaten Trump.
Maybe. Clinton would have been a good president. Think about now they were talking about a server and using a cell phone and all that.
They're still talking about all this stuff?
No, I'm talking that was a big issue at that time.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Trump's daughter did the same thing. And it was really a non-story.
Right.
And the media, and they blew it up, lock her up and all that for some of the same stuff.
I think what's crazy, though, is going back, tying this back to the beginning, is that, and to be fair, this is the Martin Luther King podcast. And if you can think about this,
right.
Think about a man like Martin Luther King who takes a completely divided country.
Right.
Completely changes the culture, doesn't have social media, doesn't have Twitter, doesn't have YouTube, doesn't have any of this bullshit. Not that it's bullshit, because I use it.
Right.
Doesn't have any of that. Has people under his wing that he works with, has a team behind him for years, decades. This dude's in office for 2.5, 3 years, and he's rolled through like 18 different appointed. He's appointed these people. Yeah. He can't even lead his own people. That's where you got to sit there and be like, this guy is appointing. General Mattis was his own appointed person, and he can't even lead, he can't even work with him. As a leadership, it's like Martin Luther King was what a leader needs to be.
Right. I think Trump, dude, he's a product of society.
Yeah, you're probably
reality
right.
Star, just he. Like I said, I don't think he's a racist. I just think he played the system.
He's a manipulator.
He's a manipulator.
Yeah. Which
is worse to me, and I don't think he's gonna be reelected.
I'll be interested to see.
I don't think he will. I think that, he's already. I just don't see it happening. He's just too much. Everybody got to be tired of the nonsense going on, and I think people being mad at other people because they're Trump people or because you're not a Trump person. I think that has divided. I mean, to be honest, there's guys I don't talk to or not as close to.
Just because of that.
Because of that.
Yeah.
And because I got tired of hearing the excuses. Or, oh, he's not racist. Or, and I'm hearing it from a different, from where I'm sitting. I'm telling you how I feel that he's racist. And you're going to tell me that I shouldn't feel that way. Right.
Yeah.
And again, not putting yourself in another person's shoes.
Right.
And not, then I would have somebody say, well, Obama was racist. Okay.
What's your evidence of that? Yeah.
Oh, well, he was a Muslim. And that just irritates me. Like, dude, because remember when he had the speech in Philadelphia about race?
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I think there aren't many people who don't have an uncle or a cousin or a parent that hasn't said something racist.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Somebody in your family,
I know.
somebody, a friend,
yep.
Somebody has said something. So that's, when they were talking about his pastor and stuff, but him as a race, I don't see him. I mean, Bush, I think when Kanye was like, oh, he's racist. Dude, he's not racist.
Dude, that's one thing I was gonna say is that even with George W. Bush, like,
no, I never.
There was never anything.
No,
like this.
he might
like,
just have. Different
he's just a
politics.
laid back dude.
Yeah,
like
dude,
everybody, everybody was like, yeah, he's a little slow, maybe, but like
no,
nobody really gave a shit that much.
No, he wasn't racist, and when like Kanye West, he was a big joke to me.
Yeah,
you know.
Is that Nicholas calling you right now to get off the podcast?
That's Jaden. But I just forgot my train of thought because of.
All right, well we'll end with that, and I just I think ultimately everything comes back to one, having a strong political leader who is actually positive and influencing you in positive manners and educating you on other people.
Right.
That stuff does come down, and you start to see things differently, and you start to question your own reality and whether or not maybe living in Leesport where everybody is white isn't reality, or maybe growing up in inner city Philly where everybody
it's not reality.
It's not.
Reality.
Everybody is the same. It's like, and that's where I think the most important thing to take away is like. At the end of the day,
people are so scared that that you're getting something.
Yeah,
you're gaining something that should be mine.
Right.
And people, I know we got to go. I had a guy tell me.
This is how every Tim Singleton conversation ends.
I had a customer.
We gotta go.
I know. There was a customer that was like, "Yeah, I hate New York." Why? Well, they have stuff up there that I can't afford to buy.
So don't buy it.
Right, but I mean. So you're judging all of New York because they have a Louis Vuitton. Because there's
Louis Vuitton's there. Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here like, he was a good dude, you know what I mean? But I'm sitting here like, really, is that where your mindset is at? Like you're gonna say, I hate this city because there's more money there than here.
Right.
And that's because he doesn't have the money. He doesn't like the city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what we have to get away from. And I think, again, fear. He was a huge Trump guy. These people up here are taking money for. Listen, people, there's always going to be very rich, very poor.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. And we just got to be accepting of everybody.
Yeah,
and that's the end.
If you want to be rich, you got to work and you'll become rich. If you want to be poor, it could easily happen.
But at the end of the day, as long as and this is the one thing you talk about, like religious stuff. It's like if you're Christian, like we should be accepting, especially we should be accepting of everybody, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, if people wear those WWJD things, what would Jesus? Do you think Jesus would be hating people? Do you think he'd be building a wall to protect you? No, he would be. He slept alongside of a prostitute.
Yeah.
He embraced that.
Most wars way back then.
Religious based. Yeah.
Every war.
Yeah.
Almost every war.
Yeah.
I don't know about Vietnam,
but whatever.
But they're religious.
Yeah.
And not to knock religion.
But it all comes back to this,
And how if you're a pastor today, are you even standing next to Trump?
Right.
I mean,
we have a pastor who comes and lives here who's a Republican, and he was like, there's no chance I would vote for this man because of what he has said about women, what he has said about people in general. He's Republican. He's like, I could not.
And that's the other funny thing is, dude, the stuff he said about women, that's that tonight when he was on the bus, he's talking about grabbing the whatever.
Yeah.
What if that was your daughter he was talking about?
God, yeah, I think about that all the
time.
How do you because I have a daughter, and it's one of those things.
How could you accept somebody to say that? That's you not putting yourself
in that situation. Yep.
I would never, or you think Obama would have been elected if he had 3 wives?
If he had 3 wives, and then paid off his lawyer, paid somebody off,
I mean,
and that's at the end of the day. That's the whole thing. It's like, but I think it goes back to what's the lesson? Accept everybody.
Accept everybody.
Sit there, make a decision.
Yeah.
If you're in some situation or whatever, but you don't pass judgment on someone.
Don't pass judgment.
Yeah.
Try to get to know them.
Yeah.
So.
All right. That's good. Peace.
All right.